I think it's been mentioned to me, and I tend to agree that the permitting process in national parks has sometimes been very slow, and it can't be in this case. These are folks who need to get their lives back to normal. And so this is part of the reason when we were asking to be part of unified command for the incident, we also asked for that to persist through recovery so that we can be pushing them along and encouraging them to make rapid decisions.
Adam Soos here for Rebel News. My colleagues Sheila Gunreid and Cian Simone are doing incredible boots-on-the-ground journalism in the area surrounding Jasper following the heartbreaking wildfire that did so much damage to that beautiful community. And while they are doing that journalism, I'm actually here in Calgary, and I had the opportunity to sit down with Premier Danielle Smith and ask her some questions about the management of forests and the federal response and the circumstances that led up to the destruction of a great part of Jasper. Folks, I just want to encourage you, if you want to help the people who are struggling as a consequence of those fires, you can do so by chipping in at helpjasper.ca. Very happy to be joined by Premier Danielle Smith. Despite Minister Guilbeault's insistence that forest management was well done, can you comment on the fact that the Federal Environment Ministry did not act on its own Jasper Park management plan to mitigate the fuel load issues in Jasper National Park?
Well, look, I've been reading the same articles that you've been reading and hearing what scientists have said. Scientists who worked for Parks Canada and have been raising this issue for many years. So I think we've got to take that seriously, and we've got to take a look at, is there a way that we can remove some of that fuel load? I've talked to my own Forestry and Parks Minister, Todd Loewen, and asked him if we could do a review so that we could see what the age of the forests are from top to bottom, because quite frankly, our forests are the type that they were forged by fire. And so when they get to be 80 to 100 years old, they die. And when that happens, there's only three things that are going to occur. Either you have to do prescribed burns to get rid of that fuel, you have to do mechanical removal, or nature will take its course. And if we can do a better job of removing that fuel so that we can protect more communities, we should do that. We'll do a review of the forests that are in our forest protection area and our provincial parks, and then we'll bring some of that learning to the federal government and ask them to do the same for federal parks.
Now, on that provincial note, what is being done as far as provincial efforts to mitigate the pine beetle fuel load as well in that provincial context?
Well, I can tell you that last year, because we had 2 million hectares burned, Todd Loewen took a dramatically different approach for how we first fight for fires, but secondly on the Fire Guard program. So one of the things that he realized is that we needed to have a very large fire guard. I think he's making them 200 meters wide now. And when we do forest firefighting, when fire does hit and we need to protect a community, we bring the dozers in right away so that we're able to clear out a fire break area. Because we've seen what happens with fire. When you get that huge fuel load coming, you need to have a break. Sometimes you do back burns, so you create a wall of fire that burns back, but you have to be careful with that because sometimes the wind can get in the way. But when you have the kind of flames that we saw in Jasper, 300 to 400 feet high, 2 kilometers wide, but by that point, there's no firefighting team that can stop it. The work that you have to do has to come beforehand.
Right. Now, in an effort to tackle sort of some of the misinformation, disinformation that is out there, and I'll ask the question, I know you've answered it, but people have been very eager to perpetuate this myth that Premier Danielle Smith cut the wildfire budget, the firefighting budget. You've indicated that that's not true already. If you can comment on that.
Hello, Premier Smith. Thank you for taking my question. So your government over the last few years has made various cuts to Alberta's wildfire fighting budget. Do you regret making those cuts now? Why or why not?
But also, where do you think that came from, and why were people so excited to repeat it?
Well, I can tell you what we observed last year is that we had a $100 million forest fire budget, and Todd Loewen said, well, what's our typical fire year? Let's bring our budget up to that need. And so he got a 50% increase in budget this year, up to $155 million. We launched our fire season early. We started hiring our people in place early, and we were ready to go by May 15th before the bulk of the fires came in. We have contracts with Indigenous forest firefighters, and we also have contracts with private sector operators. So at this precise moment, our Alberta force is 1,800 people strong, and that is so I feel like that is the kind of a force that we need to be prepared to put forward each year. And then, of course, we use the Canadian Forest Fire Interagency Centre to be able to collaborate with other provinces and to put our resources towards them when things change. I think what happened was a number of years ago there was something called a heli-tac team, and this was a team that goes in helicopters and then they rappel into an area so that they can fight fires. And what we discovered is they were barely being deployed, only in 2% of the cases, for a number of reasons. It's dangerous. Yeah. Number two, when you have, there's only certain types of landscapes that they can be on. And so what we realized is that we have to fight fires differently. So what we do is we've got infrared drones, we've got night vision helicopters, we do nighttime firefighting so that we can precision drop teams once we know where the fires are so that they can fight at night. And it's been very successful.
Okay. Now, finally, obviously, places like Jasper are national parks. They fall within that jurisdiction, but as we're seeing, it's Albertans who are suffering. Do you feel that there's a need for increased provincial involvement, or is it important to leave that jurisdiction federal?
Yes, there absolutely is a need for provincial involvement. We have been an advising agency through the forest fires, and I can tell you that when Jasper evacuated, I was on the phone immediately asking our team to do whatever we could. I said, we just can't let Jasper burn. And so they already proactively positioned a bunch of equipment so that if the call came in, they were ready for it. The call did come in, and we were ready to put all of our resources. We gave them everything that they asked for. But when we're going through this next phase, we have to remember that Parks Canada, I don't believe, has the expertise to manage a rebuild of this nature. I mean, Parks Canada does a lot of forest firefighting and forest management. This is really the kind of work that municipal governments do. Jasper is a very small community. This is the kind of thing that provincial governments should step into to assist with our expertise. So we're going to be an advisor. Happy to be used in any role that they would like, but we also have our own recovery that we need to do. We need to build a seniors lodge. One of our seniors lodges burnt down, so we've got to make sure that we're taking care of those folks. We're working on trying to find a way to get temporary housing that may or may not be just in Jasper. It could also be in Hinton. Remember, Hinton is outside the national park. So there is a role for us to play in being able to accelerate this. What we don't want is to look back 3 years from now and see that no progress has been made. I think it's been mentioned to me, and I tend to agree, that the permitting process in national parks has sometimes been very slow, and it can't be in this case. These are folks who need to get their lives back to normal. And so this is part of the reason when we were asking to be part of unified command for the incident, we also asked for that to persist through recovery so that we can be pushing them along and encouraging them to make rapid decisions.
Once again, folks, sometimes stories are just so heartbreaking that all we can do is support them in the best ways we possibly can. And we've initiated an effort at helpjasper.ca by which you can donate, and all those funds will go directly to helping with rescue efforts and rebuilding efforts and all the important things that need to be done in Jasper to help this community get back on its feet. These funds will not be going to massive international organization bodies where a great deal of the funds get lost in management. They're going to be helping people on the ground in Jasper. Again, go to helpjasper.ca.